Hey everybody, big monster show today, answering all the top questions from the week. And it's been one hell of a week. In fact, it's been a hell of a 13 days ever since the 5th of November. So thank you all for coming. Today we'll be touching on a whole bunch of different stuff. A little bit of talk about Bitcoin bill, more black holes, some Treasury changes, how retail investors are doing, and are they actually impacting Bitcoin price, how to hedge MicroStrategy, a little bit about options, how to increase your bags, perpetual trading, and a whole bunch more. Also talk about how to short Ethereum, which is a question that came in as well. My voice, my voice is a little bit gone. And the other thing is I have a staff member who has to go to the hospital, so I can't collect questions today, but at the end I will take your questions and we'll hang out and, we'll just, whatever, we'll make it happen. But thank you all for coming, and this is not financial advice, just a guy on the internet. And all the questions come from Patreon. Let's jump into it. The first question is from It's Prime Time. Now that T, I won't mention the name, won, and the Republican won the House and the Senate, what are your thoughts on Senator Lummis' bill for the U.S. to begin buying Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, accumulating 1 billion Bitcoin over the next 5 years? Will the bill get expedited and pass soon, within a year or two before Trump leaves office? It seems like Lummis is determined to get this bill approved, and I'm very curious to hear your thoughts and the potential impact on other countries, etc. Well, this is a big question. I've touched on it a number of times over the week, but let's get into some things that are happening behind the scenes. I do believe this actually has legs. There's a few things that are very important regarding why. First of all, we have a ton of new people in both the Senate and the House that are pro-crypto. The new environment, the new government with the Republicans in control are looking to shake things up. And I do believe many of the leaders have a very supportive stance towards cryptocurrency. It's complete opposite to the other group we've had over the past 4 years. Also, there were comments made at the Bitcoin conference by people like Trump and RFK and Cynthia Lummis, etc. And many of them, they do want to make Bitcoin or the US kind of like a Bitcoin superpower. And they're very open to such initiatives. And the question is, could it happen? That's what, even if it doesn't, it's getting a lot of attention. This is some of the kind of pro-Bitcoin moves. Senator Lummis calls for that bill, 1 million Bitcoin purchase to be bought over the next 5 years, which is massive, if they can even get their hands on that. And this was actually a tweet from Michael Saylor. We'll talk more about him later. But the other thing is, could it happen? I give it maybe a 15% chance, 20%. But remember, the president office can spend $10 billion a year without getting congressional approval. And that's a good start as well. And also the government already has some. But there's other things happening behind the scene that we need to pay attention to. First of all, you see some little tweets here from Elon Musk about this guy, Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick is I think he's the CEO or executive chairman of Cantor Fitzgerald. And he's very well connected. He has hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, apparently. And he is also the guy that kicked off the Doge founding member, the Department of Government Efficiency. He's tight, very tight with the President of the United States. RFK says, losing my voice. Bitcoin is a currency of freedom, a hedge against inflation for middle-class Americans. Oh dear, I'm dying. And a remedy against the dollar's downgrade from the world reserve currency and the off-ramp to ruinous national debt. And Bitcoin will have no stronger advocate than Howard Lutnick. That's a huge endorsement from RFK, who has a lot of influence. And Elon Musk said yesterday as well, he wants people to weigh in on this as well over Howard Lutnick, who could actually be a massive game changer. If Howard gets the job running the U.S. Treasury, that's it. It's going to happen. The question is, will he get the job? They're looking at some other academic guy, but I personally prefer people that actually know how to run money than academics. Nothing against academics at all, but for this critical role at this critical time where debt is exploding, I think it's very important. So if it does happen, if the US starts stacking Bitcoin, the rest of the world will follow. And that's it. We're going to $1 million. It's that simple. It's just mathematics. Let's go. Next question. Sorry about my voice. Max G. Is retail now completely irrelevant to the price of Bitcoin? Perhaps they have been for a very long time. So, Max, in previous cycles, retail were typically the latest into the cycle. Now, a lot of people are getting retail FOMO. There's retail investors buying at $90,000 Bitcoin. Bitcoin price, actually, as we speak, $90,162, despite some of the saber rattling happening in other places. But let's dig into this. I just want to give you some perspective, just with numbers. Not saying retail is not important, but they are no longer significant as Bitcoin is a $1.7 trillion asset. So just give you an example of how much action has happened. And you know I track the ETF flows every single day. Since they began, well, first of all, let me take a step back. The average retail investor, their Bitcoin buy average globally is $91. All right. The ETFs, excluding grayscale dumpage, have purchased $47.317 billion worth of Bitcoin in 10 months. Okay, that's an average of 32.3 million a day. And there's been a 1,465 buys across 9 different ETFs. The point is, if you imagine that 47.3 billion just for these 9 American ETFs, that represents 520 million global retail buyers. And note, there's only 53.23 million wallets. And half of the people on Earth have less than $8,000. The median, okay? Half of less than 8,000. So half of the planet probably has better things to spend their money on instead of Bitcoin. But anyway, that's just how large the institutional buys are. And people say, oh yeah, the ETFs, it's actually retail investors buying them. Yes, it is some. But the 1,200 institutions that they represent are buying a lot too. That's the first part. The other part is retail versus MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy has a $42 billion purchase plan, which is nuts. Again, average retail is 91. This represents 461 million global retail buyers. Just MicroStrategy, just one company, just one treasury. And again, 53 million wallets, etc. It's nuts. It is absolutely nuts. So this is not a retail game anymore. This is an institutional game. This is a treasury game. This is a pension game. This is a sovereign state game. And if things really kick off, wow, it's going to be nuts. I've never been more excited about Bitcoin in my entire life. And guess who's going to smash by tomorrow or this week? Coming. Sailor. Every time he tweets this out, he's like, sailortracker.com needs more green dots. Every time he says that, there's a big buy following. The last one, he bought $74,400. He bought 27,200 Bitcoin at that price, to over $2.1 billion. Again, the numbers are ginormous. So yeah, I do believe retail is not really in the game. Next question. And this is kind of the story behind, I said a lot of things that it's very difficult to go from $10K to $100,000, but to go from 100,000 to $1 million is easy. To go from $1 million to 10 million is easy, etc. And people are asking why. So I'm going to try to break it down as to why that happens. This is a question from Marty. I wonder, is it Marty Party? I don't know. You always say it's hard to turn 1,000 to 100,000. And the correction there, what I say is a factor of 10. So not 1,000 to 100, but 10,000 to 100,000, 10x. And then 100,000 to 1 million, another 10x. So think in terms of that step change. And now I assume you mean options is the way. No, not at all. But if you didn't know options, how could you still do it? If you had $100,000 today and couldn't use options, what would you do to achieve this? Well, if you look at my Patreon posts, I'm doing a little experiment, swapping between Tesla and MicroStrategy. I've turned since 17th of July, just pair trading 200K into 900 in 7 or 8 different swaps. And so, yeah, you can do it, and you can do it pretty fast. Again, you got to be able to time it right. So it's not that easy. It's a lot easier with options. But I do want to talk more to the heart of the topic. The question is, well, I forgot to add a title. The question is how or why is it easier to go from 100 to a million than 10,000 to 100,000 and on and on? Basically, this is the reason, or the set of reasons. First of all, compounding effect is the eighth wonder of the world, per Albert Einstein, and this accelerates wealth accumulation. I'll break that down with a graphic in a minute. But initially, growth is very slow, but as your investments increase, your returns become exponential. And for example, reaching a net worth of 100,000, once you get to that critical level, it can lead to subsequent very rapid growth in years due to compounding returns. Also, that initial investment threshold is where you can start making money work for you. You can do some creative things. You can get different tools, access to different capabilities, such as selling puts and all that type of stuff. Also, when you have that type of wealth, you probably have some real estate, and you can pull money from that and invest in the market too. So you can leverage your assets. You can also leverage your margin, leverage your wealth to do a lot of very creative things. And then you can also leverage income generating assets to make more money. And the most important thing, as I always say, is getting in early is a very big game changer, because that really, really amplifies the compounding. Let's spend a second on compounding as to why it happens. And this is from, I can't remember, it's Clear Value Tax, I think. A beautiful little chart that really talks about the miracle of compounding. Imagine your money doubles every day. And those of you who are following my perp trades know exactly what I'm going for here. But in the first day, 1 cent becomes 2 cents, day 3, 2 cents become 4 cents, etc. But it takes a long time to get to $5. It takes 10 days to get to $5. But when you look at day 11 to day 20, you go from $10 to $5,000. And then day 21 to day 30, your 10,000 goes to 5.5 million. Okay, this is basically the miracle of compounding. And that's what you need to think about. Also, think of this day 1 to day 30 being 30 years of your investment life. The earlier you start, the bigger the bag at the end of 30 years. So forget 30 days, but also you'll see the more money you have, the more money you make. Now, there's a couple of other things too that you have to bear in mind, other little secrets that I call them. First of all, the more money you have, the more you make. You get more access to different financial tools. You can afford different tools as well. You get more access to margin and margin features. You get more access to special investments and assets if you're an accredited investor. And this is probably the most important thing. The more you have, the less fear you have of losing it all. That means you can take a lot more risk. So I did that, for example, during the bear market with MicroStrategy. I was like, why not? Let's throw a bunch of money at this thing, see what happens. I believe it's better than buying spot Bitcoin. Spot Bitcoin, there was no ETF back then. And that was my camp. But I did it with heavy leverage, use of heavy margin, selling a bunch of puts, a lot of very creative things. And it's just, because I could take that risk. But somebody who has, say, $10,000, they don't have those tools, and nor can they take that risk as well. But again, the more you have, the more you can afford to lose and the more risk you can take on. And finally, most important thing as well, the more you have, the more you can reinvest. So for example, I have a big bag of Tesla from 2017, and I use that, okay? I hold it, but I use it as a mattress to sell things against it. The margin that just keeps on growing becomes very powerful. So again, the more money you make, the more you have, the easier you get up that chain. So keep that in mind, but also be very disciplined. Never expose yourself. Imagine you are here again. Say you are day 25. Okay, giggles. Imagine that's year 25. You get to $167,000 of wealth, and then you decide, oh, I'm gonna sell a bunch of puts or do a whole bunch of perp trading at 100x leverage for my entire bag because I want a 10x it. You can wipe yourself out in minutes, absolute minutes. So again, the more money you have, another weird thing that happens is you actually get much more sophisticated around risk management and much more conservative. Like I perp, but I only perp with 1% of my sol. But I perp aggressively and regularly. And now that 1% bag has become a very big bag in a short window of time. So, but again, it's play money. If that bag now, that big perp bag blows up, I've lost only 1% of my original sol. So I play with the table's money. That's another key factor to remember as well. And that's what I did in the casinos back in the 90s too. So I hope that helps. It takes money to make money. The more you get, the more you can risk. But at the same time, the more you have, the less you risk. Weird twist. I'm going to put together a bell curve around that one day. Next question from Diamond Hands. This is good news. I finally became a millionaire following your advice. Woohoo! My portfolio breakdown is 38% Bitcoin, 35% Tesla, 17% Solana, and 10% MicroStrategy. I want to be financially independent as soon as possible. What would your advice be for monthly income? I have option plays like covered calls for stocks. However, was very close to being exercised due to high volatility of Tesla and MicroStrategy, and have no option plays for Bitcoin or Sol with my brokerage. Is there anything else I can do to make income, as I want to take full advantage of my portfolio? So this is a great question and a great time. And first of all, congratulations on being a millionaire. Champagne spraying everywhere. Woohoo. Big step. First of all, if you follow Patreon, you know exactly what we do all the time. So cover calls are great for your stocks, but be very careful selling calls on things that go parabolic. Like a lot of people were trying to get very cute with Tesla. You don't see me selling a call against Tesla unless we get an extreme mean reversion spike. Okay, so bear that in mind. You know, people say, oh, I can get $5 by selling a $250 strike, and then Tesla goes to $330 in a couple of days. You don't want to do that, especially around big geopolitical events that we had so far in November. Now, what I would do, considering you do have crypto, practice first. Open up a wallet, move some crypto there, like some of your Solana, like 1% of your bag, and paper trade with perps. You know, very low leverage, 3%. Wait for those opportune times. Time it. And then when you make 5%, 10%, take it off the table. And remember the miracle of compounding. If you are making 5% even a week, the amount of money you can make over a year is insane. I won't even show you the numbers because there's far too many zeros. People won't even believe it. But spend time. Learn the miracle of compounding. So definitely play with the perps. And remember as well, you've reached a big threshold of $1 million of wealth. Protect it. Now, speaking of people who want to retire, every day we see this in the community. I block out the names so the scammers can't reach out to them, pretend they're me. I just quit my job, and this is on a Sol perp from yesterday. Sol perps for life. Again, this happens like every few minutes out there. It's crazy, but we have to be ready as well for the bear market. But the beauty of the perps, you can play it up, you play it down too. So cuts both ways, which is wonderful. Next question is from Udar Boy. As things are going great, I thought we could discuss something thought-provoking. If Bitcoin continues its explosive growth, I believe it could overtake GDP of major economies like China or the US in the next decade. $1.5 trillion times my bullish Bitcoin projection. I also feel that Tesla, including all Tesla products, will be worth at least 30 to 35 trillion. Even if you take half of CERN Basher's 2030 projections of $17,000, that's a 30x from here. And we are looking at least 100 trillion locked in just two assets, those being Tesla and Bitcoin. By the way, it's no coincidence. They are my two big plays. But the current global market cap among 80 major stock exchanges is only 110.2 trillion. Now, my question is, what will happen to the other companies or assets? Could we face a severe money supply crunch across the market in 10 years? And if yes, it feels scary even to think about it, with capital getting sucked out in different industries. Thank you. One day I was thinking how lucky your family members are. No, they're not. No. Anyway, let's get back to your question. So, a couple of things that it is a great way to think. you're stepping on what I call crowding out. So this is kind of like a shift in investment. Bitcoin and Tesla, if they continue to grow at such rates, could really draw down a huge shift from capital from other stocks, bonds, real estate, and other asset classes into these two assets. And investors might see higher potential returns or safety on those assets, leading to big reallocation of funds. This is called the crowding out effect. The shift could result in the crowding out where other sectors might struggle to attract investment and they shrink. I mean, you can look at say stocks that were really hot in the late 90s during the dot-com boom, the Intels, etc., the Ciscos, and then look at them now. 30 years later nearly, it's gone nowhere. And that's kind of the crowding out. Despite the fact there's been huge money printing, huge growth in stock markets, these things just shrink, and that's a problem. I do believe Bitcoin will eat gold, and I do believe Tesla will eat autonomy, global transportation, energy storage, that type of stuff. It's going to be a very transformational time, no doubt in my mind. The problem is, how long will it take and what will happen? But there's other big slices of the pie that are available to be eaten, like the bond market. It's like, what, another 100 debt market, etc., another $300 trillion. That's all prime, and nobody's going to be buying treasuries. That's why the treasury rates are so high, because nobody wants them, because they know it's backed by a melting ice cube. So let's talk about another example of how this crowding out can happen so fast. And you mentioned stock exchanges, and that triggered a thought. First of all, NVIDIA. Shout out to everybody in Germany as well. NVIDIA is now bigger, far bigger than the entire German stock market. It's about 3.3 trillion versus the German stock market, 2.5 trillion. One little company is worth more than all the companies in Germany. And it all happened in less than 2 years because of the AI revolution. Winner takes most for now. That's going to change too. Red Hat, thank you for coming. Another example, the second biggest stock market in the planet. This is the Japanese stock market. Nikkei 225, the top 225 companies in Japan. Again, about a $4.6 trillion market cap. And NVIDIA, 3.652 trillion. Again, only $1 trillion away. It's going to catch it, no doubt in my mind. So, as an example of the crowding out, German companies are suffering. They're not making it happen, thanks to the bureaucracy in Europe. Sorry to my European friends. That's just reality. And the Japanese stock market as well has been stagnant. Also, the yen has all sorts of problems, etc. The dollar still is the cleanest shirt in the laundry, much stronger currency. And that's why you're seeing this type of crazy stuff happen in a very short window of time. So, in answer to your question, Udar, black holes will form, no doubt, in my mind. The winning assets will take most. That's just the way of the universe. And NVIDIA was just a glimpse of the future as to what's going to happen. I always joke back in the day in San Francisco, the people that made the money during the gold mining boom were the people selling the jeans and the shovels, the picks and the shovels, Levi Strauss, etc. NVIDIA is selling the picks and the shovels, but that's because there was no gold during that gold rush. But I do believe AI has gold. The AGI that has to be turned on with autonomous vehicles and Optimus robots, that will melt faces. Do not fade what's coming. And again, per compounding, the earlier you get into this revolution, the better off you are. It's like buying Bitcoin at $10 or $100 or $1,000. We're going to $100,000 Bitcoin. All the people that got it at, like my first buy was about $3,000 or whatever. But the people that bought at 1,000 or 100, they're sitting very pretty as we head towards $100,000 Bitcoin and then beyond. And if this US Bitcoin bill happens, boom, insane madness. Anyway, Al Green, should we be buying short-dated 6-month to 12-month put options that are at the money every time Tesla or MicroStrategy spike upwards or go past the ATR levels? Recently, Tesla went past ATR 5, rebounded a little bit from there. I want to protect myself in the downtrend, but don't really know how. I already own a bunch of leap calls. Well, good stuff. Let's break it down. And as I always say here, be careful with options. Do not touch them unless you really, really know what you're doing. Let's look at just not a 6 to 12 month out put option at the money. We'll look at just 6 months out. And I want to show you a couple of things that are kind of warning signs. This is the real life quote. Of course, in aftermarket, it's at 103. It did trade as low as 96. So call it a $100, $105 option. And it'll be higher probably tomorrow because, well, maybe Saylor is going to buy some more Bitcoin during the week. Anyway, that's just speculation. So the put options are very, very expensive. This is not the money put for April 2025, less than 6 months out. Also, if you look at the open interest, 17, there's no liquidity. I can't play in that market. There's nobody there. The 17 contracts is nothing. So watch for that too. So if you do buy them, you might have a hard time selling them. And that's just the reality. But most important, the stock price, say at 340, it costs you like $105 to buy this put. Technically, your break-even point is down around 235. Okay, in the next 6 months. MicroStrategy has to tank an awful lot to reach that break-even point. Therefore, it makes no sense to buy this insurance. As I always say, insurance is expensive. That's the problem. Now, what you can do, the clever option, is, and of course, these things will time decay real quick. And as I always say as well, forgot to mention, after a big spike in price, options are very expensive, both ways. But what you could do is you can get involved in a put spread to reduce the cost of protection. You just build a collar around where the price you think could go. And my preferred method is selling covered calls on those big spikes. And that way you hedge your downside and you get some extra cash in your pocket too. So that's what I would do. I would not buy. I rarely buy puts. Now there is one exception. All right. And this is, if we go back to 1010, the Tesla We Robot day, I had a feeling the stock was going to sell off after. And coincidentally, 1010 was on the Thursday and options were expiring the next day, Friday. So you could buy an at-the-money put for $10 on Tesla. And I think the price is about $250 at the time. And then after hours, it fell down to $220. So you could have invested for one day a put for $10 and would have tripled in value. But that's really hard to time and very risky. So that's the only time I would consider doing it. Hope that helps. Next question. This is from David 3. First time you posted. Welcome to the family. Thank you, James and team, for making a huge contribution to my financial literacy. My pleasure. That's why I do this. What are the odds these legacy Wall Street analysts, in fact, do see the value of Tesla long term, but are orchestrating periods of extended price suppression in order to stack themselves? This is a very good question, and I like the way you think. Always be paranoid. Always think about what's happening behind the curtain, because believe me, stuff is happening behind the curtain. Let's look at the rules first. Wall Street rules. Any reputable institution and analyst are bound by strict regulations and ethical standards to provide honest assessments to investors. The bad news, they're all lying sacks of poop. They're all psyops. They all have parents that work for GM and have a big GM bag or something, and whatever else. But the most egregious of all is this guy. And it's so funny because I made a video about the analyst analysis, and boy, it was interesting. But this just came out. This is a slide from my video a couple weeks ago. Perlikander, who has a clean energy fund with a price target of $15 on Tesla. He's always on CNBS saying that Tesla is the next Enron. And you can see here, they have over $1 billion in puts on Tesla. I just covered how expensive puts are. He just took it hard on the shorts. And Tesla is the widowmaker. For these guys who are trying to bring Tesla down, they put a big bet to pump their own bags, and they get on TV, act like a psyop. TV gives them the airtime to depress the price. That's what happens. And we have other fellows that tried this for years and years. This guy is from James Stevenson, Jim Chanos, widowmaker. He was talking about why he was maximum short Tesla for years and years and years and got his face completely ripped off. Now he had to shut down his little hedge fund and walk away in shame. You know, a guy who had a 35-year plus career was good back in the day, but just sometimes people get this bug in their butt where they just say, I hate Elon, I hate Tesla, I'm just gonna short it. So they're full of crap. Now, back to your question. Does this happen? Yes, but there's been a bit of a change. So up until, I guess, pre-Robot event, institutions were only about 45% of Tesla. They've gone to nearly 55% in a very short window of time. So they've been stacking Tesla to kind of window dress their portfolios before year end because they don't want to not have it going into the new year because they know, we'll talk in a minute, why 2025 and 2026 will be special. But this is important. Yes, the analysts can impact stock price in the short term. If you see a big firm, if you get somebody like Morgan Stanley comes out and drops their price target of Tesla from, say, 400 to 200, stock price will fall that day. Badly. It'll fall by $30. So they do have that power, but they have to use it carefully or else they break the law if they're manipulating markets and betting against. Like this guy technically should be fined by the SEC because he's clearly lying and he has a different angle. It's not like he doesn't have a position. He's waiting for it to go down. Also, large institutions, like I mentioned, Morgan Stanley, can affect prices. Financial sector's big problem I have with analysts is they don't understand technology. They don't understand roadmaps. They don't understand the importance of free cash flow. They're obsessed with earnings per share, month to month, quarter to quarter. And Wall Street were caught flat-footed with the huge spike in Tesla just over the last month. It has shot up dramatically. Now, I want to shout out here as well to the investment advisors who were also caught flat-footed by not telling their customers to stack Bitcoin during this year when it was cheap. Now it's nearly $100,000. And these investment advisors still are not telling their retail customers with big bags to allocate to Bitcoin. Anyway, at least I'm here trying to convince people. So, and the other problem is the traditional analysts, they're categorized as car analysts, so they're used to looking at Ford and GM and don't have a clue what they're doing, but they're coming around. So now you have, again, Morgan Stanley beginning to see the impact of AI, autonomy, Optimus, all that stuff, and building into their financial models. So it's coming slowly but surely. Now, next question dovetails into this a little bit too. This is from Chesterdor. Again, I like the way you think because you're thinking long term. If there is a bear market looming for 2026, how would that affect the price of Tesla? Should I immediately swap my crypto gains for Tesla in 2025 or wait for the crash to play out? NFA, of course. So again, as I covered in yesterday's video, there is that chance, ever-increasing chance of a perpetual bid for things like Bitcoin. We don't know if we're going to see a bear market like we did before. I think it's a good 30-35% chance we won't, at least nothing like the drawdowns we've seen before. What also will happen, I do believe the US government is in good shape, and they have the ability now with some very smart minds in the cabinet to help the economy grow, to help embrace innovation, to help embrace AI and all that good stuff. So Tesla will not be impacted by a bear market over the next 2 years, I believe. And let me show you the reason why. First of all, the tailwinds are insane. The amount of goodness coming to this company is just bonkers. And this is not the comprehensive list. I thought of another few items after I did it last night and this morning. But let's talk about strategic edge. Meaningful Optimus will be deployed late 2025, early 2026. Musk's relationship with the US government cannot be understated. He was hanging out with kind of all the key cabinet members at the UFC last night. And Tesla will have a 10 million global vehicle fleet, which means a lot of opportunity to sell FSD. Also, they have new products and new models. The new Model Y is coming out. Cybertruck is ramping. It's getting very lean and mean and dominating, crushing Rivian and other players. The Cybercab will come out in 2026. It's going to completely revolutionize transportation on the planet. Model 2.5 vehicles will come out in the first half of 2025. Robovan, I don't care much about that, but it's on the list anyway. Factories and scale. The lithium refining plant will go live in a quarter or two. The second mega factory will be complete in Q1 in Shanghai. Also, the big truck factory will be complete in Nevada as well in Q1. And then we kick off in a big way. And these semi-factories, the semi-truck will need the 4680 if you go to the technological piece there. 4680 is ramping so fast, it's hard to believe. FSD will be safer than humans in 2025. Everybody's going to buy it. In fact, for $99, it's the biggest no-brainer you could possibly have. And virtual inferencing cluster, a bit of a future vision thing, but when the cars aren't being used, they can operate as AI inference, which will be huge. Dojo Gen 2 and Gen 3 are coming out as well. And then autonomy. Tesla owner ride-hailing is coming next year. You got Cybertax, Taxi Robocab, whatever you want to call it, in California and Texas. And again, I'll say it twice. FSD will be safer than humans in 2025. It's insane. It's insane. So don't worry about bear market for Tesla. I don't think it's going to happen. Now, if it does spike to like $600 early next year, then it might be flat. It depends how fast it goes and how high it goes, how far it mean reverts. But I think there's a lot of goodness behind us. Next question is from Napalm DL. Hey, James, when it comes time for the bear market, what is the cheapest way to short Ethereum? Ooh, I thought this is an interesting question. Anyway, let's talk about some of the methods that are commonly available. And everybody should literally, hedging and risk management is so important. So start getting familiar with the different tools and methods and make sure you have your ops in place to do it, okay? Don't wait for things to hit the fan and then say, oh, I need to start getting ready to hedge or whatever. No. Now is the time to build that infrastructure in your methodology around trading and hedging, getting options authority, and making sure you have the margin, make sure you got the cash, make sure you know how to use perps. All that type of stuff is going to be so important. But here are some ways. First of all, use a crypto exchange that offers margin trading or futures. Also, you can use leverage tokens or ETFs that provide inverse exposure to ETH price. That could be a minus 3x ETH exposure. Just buy those, but don't hold them too long. Also, use option contracts, buy puts on ETH. What did we learn today? Puts are expensive. So that's just, very short term, you can do it, get away with it, but long term, no. And for very short-term trades, some exchange offers perpetual futures contracts in ETH. And if you already hold ETH, you could lend it out on DeFi platforms to earn a little bit of interest. And that can offset your losses. But the last one, I wouldn't even consider at all. If you think something's going down, you need to make a very hard decision. At the end of every year, I do what I call house cleaning. So I look at all my assets and I say, would I buy it at this price now? And if the answer is no, I kill it. Okay, I pay my taxes on the gains or whatever the case may be. So that's important. But if I had to do it, and for the ETH lovers out there, I've never shorted ETH, okay? But if I had to, I would do it on Jupiter. You can basically use your SOL to short ETH. You can use leverage, and it's super simple and easy to do. And this is the SOL ETH chart since 2023. It has been wicked. ETH has done okay. But SOL has done 8x better. So it's one of those things where, yeah, I like the way you think. You can play it both ways in the market, but be ready, and we will be ready for when the time comes. Next question is from Naughty Chemo. Hi, James and team. As an EU-based investor, I have a feeling that all the fun in the cryptoverse happens during the night. Any best practices to implement spot future trading during the EU when we can't react so quickly? So if you are just doing spot trading, you just place your limit orders to catch, set traps. I do that all the time with stocks and stuff. But a couple of things to think of is not just in terms of the hours of the day, but the days as well, and how this time around things are changing a little bit. Now, I analyzed all of the history of Bitcoin for the last 14 years, and Monday typically was the best day for Bitcoin, with the average return about 0.54% per day. However, there's a little bit of a change happening. And now, recently, Sundays kick off during this bull market, particularly when Asia opens. There's also an anomaly to this too. We'll get into it. But these are the key EU time zones. And by the way, I am often up at 3 a.m. making a perp trade. So I watch the markets 24/7. and I have alerts go off. If something hits my trap, bing, I hear an alarm, jump out of bed and take care of it, okay? It's probably not a comfortable lifestyle for many, but that's what I do during this bull run. Now, these are the key time zones. And by the way, for everybody here, CET is like Germany time, Central European time. So bear that in mind as well. I'm not talking my time, which is Pacific. This is CET. And this corresponds like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. You're probably going to be asleep. That's when the Asian markets open, and you always get a solid spike. It's a nice window. Also, and for people that want to convert this to their time zone, just plug that into Google and it'll do it for you, or your calendar, whatever else. Then you got 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. CET. European market opens, but I never see any pump there at all. It's like I don't see much liquidity coming out of Europe at all these days. Maybe they're just not into crypto. But I know the Dutch are. I know the Swedish are. And I know you are, whichever country you're in. Also, the U.S. market opens at 2:30 p.m. your time. And this leads to increase in volume. And you see some volatility and some price increases. But then sometimes it sells off a little bit into the close. But then crypto spikes after the market closes around 10 p.m. So if you had to stay up, all the fun for you would be 10 p.m. to midnight your time, and then get up again at 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. Now, there is another thing that's happening too. And this is last night. I'm watching the UFC at an event, and I'm perp trading, sitting in the corner with my little hat on and not talking to people. And this happened. So we had a Saturday anomaly, which is rare, but Solana shot up 13% in 2 hours, and nobody really knows why. So, and that would be what, 6 a.m. your time. So just be prepared. The markets do their thing whenever they're going to do, and the days of Monday being the best day is probably now Sunday. I will reanalyze all that data though before the end of the year, and I'll open up to a few questions. But shout out to Rune, not the token. Rune is a content wolf dog who we sponsor at the Wild Spirit Wolf Sanctuary. And a thank you to all the team who are behind this. He's waiting for his perfect life partner. And sometimes it's right to wait for the right one. And DCA will be on Tuesday again this week, and then back to Monday the following week. I'll be doing Octa tomorrow. So don't look for DCA tomorrow. Everybody's like, where's DCA? Let's do a couple of questions from the team. I'm just going to grab them from the chat. I normally have somebody harvesting them. Big shout out as well to T&D Tesla and Sean Donnelly. Love you guys. Appreciate all you do. From Dean Mine, I would love a full Solana video update. I'm working on one with a whole bunch of analytics and data as well, because a lot of people kind of were losing faith when other poop coins were popping, and all of a sudden Solana popped. But one thing I do want to say, I have all these models that appraise cryptos and value them. Literally, there is no crypto blockchain more valuable as an enterprise or undervalued now than Solana across all the metrics. And that'll be part of the video I'll put together as well. Let me see. Do you see Jupe gaining traction soon? Jupe had a huge spike last night. I voted on Jupiter. I have Jupiter. I have it staked so I can vote and get ASR rewards. But yesterday it shot to over $1.30. So Jupiter's hanging in there. It's making it happen. Joe the Hun, thank you as well. And Doc Simple. Matthew J, can you do an updated retire on video and a Bitcoin cohort percentage video? Yes, the Bitcoin cohort's easier. And Matthew J, we're working on a model actually. This is kind of fun. One of my many roadmap dreams. It's a model that takes the retire on capabilities. You can plug in your own positions, your own price target assumptions, your own allocations, the time you want to retire, how much you need to spend to retire, and hopefully we'll be able to turn that into a web app. So you can all use it yourself. It's going to be fun. So I'm kind of waiting for a few pieces on that because that will make building that easier, but I will do an update. But the other thing about these retire on videos, I like to do them when the market's very low, like the retire on cocktail. I mean, if people threw 30K at that a year and a half ago, they would have done very well. Anyway, the point is, that'll come to. Everybody wants that. Let me see. Mad Max Crypto, do you see NOS going wild after Sol breaks all-time high? Yeah, so the way it works, Bitcoin runs first, winning all second, or in this bull market, memes second, or sometimes memes first. Memes are just insane. I don't quite get that. But yeah, then after the mothership runs, people may take profits on that and rotate into smaller alts to get a pump as well. So we'll see if that happens as well. James, did you watch the Serrano-Tyler fight? Yeah, I did. And Taylor, I think the lady, I think it's Amanda Serrano, she definitely deserved. I think it was stolen from her. Anyway, not boxing judging advice here. All right. From Bruno, this is fun. What do you think is the best time to swap MicroStrategy to Tesla is? Check out my Patreon. I'm doing that test because it's part of a new model we're working on with the team of data scientists and Python programmers to nail the rotation. And we're getting closer to cracking the code on that one. Black Friday sale. The team is working on something. You'll hear next week as well. ADA people are great. Everybody's great. Solvable. I'm not going to go there. Let me see. Mark Ivan, can you short Bitcoin perps to lock Bitcoin gains in the spot market? Yes, you can. That's going to be a key part of the strategy as well. So yes, you can. Johnny Bravo, may I ask, what is size of Sol perps? Are you going using your 1% at usual 3.3x in and around 500 Sol? Yesterday's Sol position was many thousands of Sol in the perp. It was very big. It was north of $500,000 in size. So it was, and I did a mistake. Do a full mea culpa here, and I posted on Patreon too. There was a bit of congestion when I was adding at around 212, 213 yesterday, if I remember, and I tried to add to my existing perp, which is in about 214, and it kept on saying timeout. So I changed the RPC, like I showed you a couple of weeks ago, and hit it again, timeout. Then I changed the RPC again, hit it again, timeout. What actually happened behind the scenes was I kept on buying. So I basically quadrupled the size of my perp by accident. And then within an hour and a half, Solana popped. So it was fun. Stock-based compensation. You can find stock-based compensation on platforms like Simply Wall Street, Guru Focus, etc. And in their 10K statements, you can find all that stuff too. Natural sovereignty. What is the fastest and safest way to sell a crypto position? Is it to convert it to USDC first before moving it further? Yeah, you can do that. If you're moving large amounts, always test with a small amount first. Move it to a centralized exchange, put it to cash, or convert to a stable coin online in a DEX. I actually prefer DEXs. They're cheaper, better, faster to use. So that's what you can do there. And let me see. Jimmy Neal, thank you for coming. And Paddington too, appreciate you. First, let me see. What did somebody say? Yeah, solvable. Funny comments. I won't repeat them. I don't want to offend anybody's bank. Let me see. Michael Anthony, Bitcoin should test 75,000 and sideways since Trump has no plans yet. This isn't a Trump game. So what's interesting now is sovereigns around the world. There's rumors Qatar, Dubai, Saudi Arabia are all stacking Bitcoin. You have Bhutan stacking Bitcoin. You got Michael Saylor stacking Bitcoin. You got high net worth individuals stacking Bitcoin. If the US decides to buy $10 billion worth, who cares? Michael Saylor's buying $42 billion worth. That's what matters. And when you look at the Michael Saylor bag buy, $42 billion over the next 3 years, that's enough to consume all of the new Bitcoin that's mined over the next 3 years. So when you think about that, that's mad. If nobody sells, we're going to the moon. That's it. What's going on with Mr. 100 these days? Everybody's asking about that. He stopped buying and has sold about 1,600 Bitcoin over the past 2 weeks. He bought very heavily around 62K and started selling. Sold a bunch, actually. He's probably kicking himself around 70K, 72K. And should have waited for $93,000 Bitcoin. But hey, it's tricky. And their DCA got very good. I don't know as well if they're selling or they're transferring to another wallet. I heard rumors as well. Mr. 100 has opened another wallet and didn't want his one wallet getting too big or too much attention on it. So maybe they're stacking somewhere else. But stacking is happening. There's wallets adding 3,000 to 5,000 Bitcoin a week all over the place. And that's it. And this now, Mr. 100, compared to BlackRock or Sailor, Mr. 100 is no longer as significant as it was earlier this year. Let me see. I have Tesla calls expiring deep in the money in January 2025. What do I have to do to take possession of the stock? I don't know what exchange you were on, DigiBTC. Normally, if you have the money in your account, they'll just convert. So if you have, I've got a whole bunch of like $110, $150, $140, $120 leaps. And that's why I have to have a lot of margin, because when they expire, you just get the stock at a discount. So make sure if you have one leap, 100 shares, strike is $100. You need 10 grand to be able to buy them. If your cash is not in there to buy it, it might just expire. I don't know what happens. I always have taken possession of all my leaps. They'll convert. So let me see. Can you try to get some? The other question from Keith Hyde: buy MicroStrategy or Tesla right now? Right now, if Tesla gets to low 300s, you buy Tesla. If MicroStrategy gets to low like 320, 310, you buy MicroStrategy. So it all depends on relative value as well. Watch the pair carefully. And happy Sunday, everyone, as well, from Juliana. I appreciate you. Thank you, A Bottle of Red. Thank you, Sean Donnelly. Thank you, D&D Tesla. I'm going to take one more question. Wise trading minds. What would you consider high stock-based compensation? So a lot of companies, literally, they were losing $10 billion a year, and they were paying themselves $10 billion a year in stock-based compensation. I find that disgusting, completely egregious. Yeah, you can pay executives when they start making a profit and stuff, but no other times as well. Thank you all for coming. Space stocks, yes. Andrew Schooler, I discussed space stocks, SpaceX, and if you are going to play a space stock, just don't mess with all the other ones. Play with SpaceX. Become accredited, or go to Hive and you can grab some there too. By the way, SpaceX stock is skyrocketing on Hive. It's gone from $126 to over $300 last time I checked on Friday. Thank you all for coming. Happy Sunday. See you all tomorrow morning with Okta. Good night, everybody. And thank you as well to the mods in chat and everybody who came. I need to check what the Bitcoin price is doing too. I think there's a little bit of global tensions out there. Bitcoin fell $400. Not a biggie. Still very close to $90,000. Hard to believe. Good night, everybody. Take care of yourselves.